At that moment, a man was at the subway station, boarding yet another of South Korea's crowded subway cars. He watched the people around him and thought that, after finishing his deliveries, he would finally be reunited with his family for the first time in a long while. But it was only a thought. In reality, he had not met anyone. He was there, on the subway, merely imagining what that reunion would be like, remembering his mother, remembering when he was small as the cramped space of that train car. But the subway was a fantasy. In the corner of the place where he actually was, there was only a skeleton, a corpse. He was not in a house, nor in a city. He was in a post-apocalyptic desert. An old man he knew had once told him that 40 years earlier, long before he was born, the world had been completely different. It was a peaceful, safe world, but a tragedy struck suddenly. Black pillars emerged from the skies, coming from the unknown, falling literally like a storm. Each one was like an enormous bomb, and so the world ended, leaving behind only rubble and a handful of survivors. But that was the story he had heard from the old man. Most of the stories the old man told were hard to believe, and this one of all of them made the least sense. A subway? A bunch of strangers crammed into a small enclosed space? Asking to be killed was an understatement. The old man said it was possible because the ancient world was peaceful, but the boy did not believe it. He knew the age of peace had ended long ago, and anyone who mentioned the word peace was a lunatic. Even so, he thought he would like to ride a subway one day, rushing through an underground tunnel at high speed. But at that moment, inside an abandoned building, he heard footsteps and hid. They were two soldiers searching for survivors or supplies. The boy wanted no trouble, and intended only to slip past them, but one of the soldiers, already stained with blood, found his trail. The other turned with his rifle and asked who was there. When the boy stood up, the soldier told him to stay calm and remarked to his partner that it was just a postman, judging by the clothes. The postman replied that the two of them had made far too much noise. The soldier wanted to know what he was delivering letters for, and the postman explained he was on his way to deliver an aerial invasion warning, wrapping up another batch of deliveries. He could tell the two bore clear signs of a brutal fight, since only those two remained. The soldier commented that it must be hard work, apologized for the trouble, and asked if he was hungry. The postman said he had a little food to spare, and proposed a trade for something of value. The soldier said he had bandages, some hygiene supplies, and a battery, but the postman said he wanted ammunition. The soldiers found it strange that a postman would want ammunition, and reminded him that their caliber was 5 mm for assault rifles. The postman explained that he did not want supplies only for personal use. A postman does not carry much, and ammunition is valuable precisely because it is small, light, and worth a great deal. The soldier replied that they needed to conserve their ammunition too. The postman pressed on, asking for at least one bullet in exchange for a snack and a bottle of water. The soldier asked if he was really going to give all that for one bullet. The postman confirmed it. Not more, not less. One bullet. The soldier refused and said that if the antibiotics were not enough, he could offer the lighter. The postman asked if it was really that hard to part with one bullet, or if perhaps they had no ammunition at all. The soldiers grew tense, and one of them pointed his gun at the postman's head, threatening to show him what an empty cartridge looked like. The postman replied that they were working for the same government, and that there was no reason for such hostility. The masked soldier said they could not go back anyway, that he was just a useless postman. The postman found the comment a bit rude, but asked why they could not go back. He realized they were not survivors. They were deserters. Bandits, in fact. The first soldier tried to strike him with a rifle butt, but the postman dodged and countered with a knee that shattered the visor of the soldier's mask. The second, wearing a helmet, tried to stab him, but the postman sidestepped, noting that his opponent was aiming for the neck and that his movements were far too telegraphed. He followed up with a kick to the face. The soldier with the knife asked how a mere postman could do that, and the postman replied that he had never said what his profession was, and that being called postman over and over was a little rude. He moved in on the soldier, grazed his arm on the knife, and revealed a metal guard hidden inside his sleeve, knocking the enemy down with a heavy punch. The soldier still insisted on knowing why a simple postman had a police shield on his arm. The postman lamented that his sleeve had been torn and asked how the soldier planned to make up for that, whether he knew how to sew, whether he could mend a sleeve, and it was at that moment that he drew a pistol, asking the soldier if he had bullets for it. The soldier was stunned, asking who the hell this guy was, and how he had a hunter's pistol. The postman simply pointed to his own uniform and said he was just a postman. Later, he was sewing up the torn sleeve himself, thinking he was going to hear plenty about it when he got back to headquarters. It was a quick stitch, just enough so no one would notice it had ripped. Considering the damage his guard had taken, he should have gotten more out of those two, but at least he had gotten enough to fix the mess. Then he continued on his way. 3 hours remained before the aerial invasion. He kept walking until he stopped near a base. One of the guards asked him to identify himself. The postman showed his uniform and credentials, explaining he was bringing an aerial invasion warning. They had roughly 2 hours and 40 minutes. The younger guard asked the veteran whether that was right. The veteran confirmed it was indeed the postman's job to warn of aerial invasions, and that if one had shown up, a massive pillar was going to fall. The postman said enough talk and that he was going to activate the alarm. The guard asked him to wait and went to call the captain. Before triggering anything, the guard let him in. The postman found found himself under a metal roof, impressed that the place had lasted so long. Everyone was shocked to see it was a real postman, and they were saddened because they knew this day would come, that they would have to abandon the place. The guard brought the postman to the captain, a man who looked completely ordinary. The postman knew that when visiting a colony, there were things that had to be kept in mind. Rule number 1. Familiarize yourself with the colony's laws. In a world where transportation and communication were scarce, laws stabilized everything. Isolated colonies created their own rules to survive. In other words, you said nothing until someone spoke to you first. The colony's leader approached, gave the postman a few pats on the shoulder, and said it must have been hard to get there, inviting him for a drink and some rest. Later, at the colony's bar, the leader said he did not want to cause panic among the residents, and asked whether the black pillar was going to fall right there. The postman confirmed that headquarters had determined as much, roughly within 2 hours. The leader replied that those numbers meant nothing to him, and asked if the postman knew how to interpret the data. The answer was no. The leader then asked what the chances were that they would survive the aerial invasion. The postman said he was no expert, that he was just a postman. The leader pressed on, saying he must have been through an aerial invasion before. The postman said he did not know. The guard said that if that was all he had to say, he could leave. The leader asked for calm. The postman said that even if he wanted to leave, he still had work to do. It was government work. He placed a tripod machine on the ground, a device that measured the impact force of the falling black pillars, allowing the data to be compared against headquarters projections. The leader observed that they had built that roof specifically for aerial invasions, and asked if it could interfere with the reading. The postman replied that according to experts, the pillars did not simply fall from the sky. They behaved like living organisms, slowing down as they entered the atmosphere and dropping precisely above their target. A roof would make no difference whatsoever. The only advice he could give was that 1 hour and 50 minutes remained. When the postman left the leader's room, everyone wanted to make a trade with him. He asked if anyone had ammunition. A general silence fell over the room, but a man approached, offering a grenade. He had no ammunition. Later, the postman made the real trade. The leader asked why he wanted a grenade that might not even work. The postman replied that it was better than antibiotics, far more valuable, and that just by looking at it, he could tell the beauty worked. Then he asked why they still had not evacuated the base. The leader said he was going to stay, that maybe the roof would hold. On top of that, the leader had a favor to ask. A little girl who had been watching the postman the whole time introduced herself as Gyung-hoo. They had never met before. She was going back to headquarters and wanted to go with him. The leader explained that she claimed to have something very important to deliver, and that it would be cheaper if he took her personally. The postman asked why she wanted to come along when she could simply have him deliver whatever it was. He told her to get lost. The only thing that could follow him was his own shadow. Gyung-hoo said she would be like his shadow then. The postman asked if she really thought she could manage that, reminding her that a shadow does not leave because its owner cannot get rid of it. That was when the girl turned on a flashlight. The postman was indignant, saying she was wasting a battery's life for nothing, and gave her a definitive no. But Gyung-hoo then produced ammunition, saying she could give it to him. The leader stepped in, saying that ammunition was not meant for that. She asked whether postmen were not trustworthy. The postman took the ammunition and examined it. That colony did not look wealthy enough to entrust ammunition to a child. It was high-grade military ammunition, the cartridge nearly full, and the girl was clearly carrying a weapon on her back. The postman said that for that ammunition, he could only deliver a message. The leader was firm. He wanted the postman to take Gyung-hoo to headquarters, and he himself would stay behind. That place was their home, and someone had to remain to protect it. He could not let the girl do it alone. The postman replied that a roof can be rebuilt at any time, sir, and told the girl to follow him at once. Once outside the colony, he said they would have to move fast, because the invasion would begin soon. Gyung-hee asked whether the roof would be enough to stop the pillar. The postman said no. She asked why he had not warned them. He explained that people who do not want to leave will not leave, no matter what you say. And besides, there is always a minimal chance. There is a small possibility of surviving, just as he had survived. 30 minutes remained before the aerial invasion. The storm grew even more powerful above the colony. The guard from before asked the captain whether he did not plan to escape. The captain replied that that place had been their home for years, and that he was going to protect them this time too. The guard said that at least the captain was drinking the whiskey he had been saving for years. The captain told him to have a glass as well. The guard asked whether the postman had said anything else. The leader thought about the last words he had heard. A roof can be rebuilt. But he quickly dismissed it, saying the postman only cared about himself. At that moment, Gyung-hoo was chewing a piece of dried meat. The postman remarked that her bag was like a bottomless pit. Something always turned up. She offered him a piece and he politely declined. He examined the ammunition cartridge. Each cartridge held 30 bullets, but one bullet was missing, meaning one had been fired. The postman knew the captain would not have hidden a bullet before handing the cartridge cartridge to a child, so the bullet had been fired. Kyung-hoi thanked him for keeping his promise. The captain had told her she could trust a postman who worked for the government. Even so, she had still been worried he would take the ammunition and leave her behind. The postman replied that there was nothing to abandon, that she was following him on her own, and that he did not care what she did. She said she still wanted to thank him properly, and gave him the middle finger. The postman asked if she knew what that gesture meant. She replied that in her colony it was a sign of gratitude. He said that was not quite right, that gestures could mean different things in different places, but that there was a universal gesture. He pulled her thumb up. Thumbs up. At that moment, she felt a chill run down her spine. The postman said it was time. Aerial invasion. They took shelter behind a nearby wall, and she covered her ears because it was so loud. The postman then began to recite, as if in prayer, as though the skies carried a silent rage. The black pillars struck the earth like needles. The girl looked confused, and he explained that it was what someone had said. One of the first people to witness an aerial invasion. Decades had passed since the fall of the ancient world, and the reason they could not rebuild was precisely because of those pillars. It was as though they were intelligent. They targeted and destroyed every major institution. The only places safe from aerial invasions were the headquarters and the geofront, the underground. Then the black pillars fell upon that colony. A massive explosion followed. A white flash. Shortly after, the postman was wearing a mask, surveying the rubble. That colony had very bad luck. Not every aerial invasion sent a pillar that large. He returned to the site only to retrieve the measuring device, since equipment with communication cores was extremely rare in that world without networks. But when he arrived, the device was completely destroyed. He told the girl they needed to return to headquarters. She spent some time staring at the spot where her old home had stood, but soon followed the postman to the car. After a while, she started to cry. The postman said that black pillars were a disaster, but that they had one beautiful thing about them. After an aerial invasion, the stars shone more brightly than on any other day. The night sky was stunning. He said he was trying to say it was not always just bad news. She asked if he was trying to comfort her. He replied that he just hated crying. All right, and that they had a long road ahead, so crying only wasted energy. She smiled. She asked why he did this work. He said it was obvious. To survive, she should not ask stupid questions. Then he asked what kind of delivery was worth all the effort she was carrying, but she said he still had not told his own story. The postman said she was a pain, all right, and showed her the subway keychain he carried. He explained that they say it was a machine that carried people from one place to another. She thought it was tiny, and he said that was just a model, that the real thing was much bigger. He asked her to imagine rushing through the underground with hundreds of people on board, a subway that takes you exactly where you want to go. It was a relic of the ancient world, but he hoped to ride one someday. She said he was more innocent than he appeared. He then asked how long she was going to keep hiding something. He asked whether she was concealing one of the bullets from the cartridge the captain had given her. He did not want to take her ammunition. He just wanted to pressure her into being a little quieter, but she said she had eaten it. The postman asked what she meant, why she would eat a bullet. She replied that the dried meat had run out and there was nothing else left. The postman thought that they say children that age eat everything including their fingernails, but this was too much. He said that if she was hungry next time, she just had to say so, and he could give her a little food. Suddenly, he heard a noise. They hid behind a wall. The postman told Kyung-hoo not to move. They were creatures born from the black pillars, their bodies completely black and with a single terrifying eye. He moved in with his knife, but before he could do anything, Kyung-hoo had already fired at one of them, destroying the first creature. She really had been hiding a bullet. Crazy girl. When the creatures approached due to the sound of the gunshot, the postman slit the first one's throat with his knife. There was still a third. The postman tried to be fast enough, driving his knife through the creature's head, but before he could land the blow, it thrust its arm out like a spear and pierced Kyung-hoo's chest. The postman asked why she had not stayed still, why she had not listened to him. She replied that he only had a knife, and she thought it would not be enough. He asked if she had been lying from the start, if she had been hiding a bullet. She said it was the captain who had taught her. To survive in that world, you needed to have at least one card up your sleeve. But she said he was incredible, that he had killed the monsters. The postman assessed her condition and calculated there was only a 0.9% chance. Even using all the medicine, there would not be much hope. That gunshot would certainly attract many more creatures, but he did not know if those stupid numbers mattered that much. Kyung-hoo said she knew it was impossible to save her, and asked one last thing, that he deliver the letter. The recipient was in Yeongdong-po, in Seoul. The postman said it was not something worth risking his life over. She begged him to deliver it, and the postman noticed the creatures were already approaching. She asked if he still had the grenade he had taken from the colony. She said he could think of it as freight, but that he had to promise. And they made a pinky promise. When the many creatures approached Kyung-hoo, they did not expect her to be holding a grenade. That was the deal. She would detonate the creatures and he would deliver the letter. She gave one last smile and set everything off. After a while, when only ash and a few monster remains were left, the postman had to finish off the one still moving with his own knife. From inside the head of one of them, in the place where its eye had been, he extracted a monster core. Looking up at the sky, he said that for a good while after this, he would certainly be having nightmares. Later, he was at the new government building. He was promptly approached by Director BAE, who said he had just finished washed and remarked that the postman looked terrible. Had something gone wrong on the mission? The postman said no, nothing much. Director BAE then reminded him that there would be a special mission briefing soon and asked him not to forget to attend, that it would be important for him. Woo Jung-kook said he was tired. The director assured him it would be something of interest to him. Later, at the briefing with all the other government postmen, Woo Jung-kook could not concentrate, remembering Kyung-hoo and what had happened. Another postman asked a question. If the delivery was that heavy, what kind of vehicles would they use? The government official said it was a secret, but they would find out soon. That was the planned transport route. Some said it was impossible, but the official said no, because the subway was being rebuilt at that very moment. This excited Woo Jung-kook greatly. He kept wondering whether the subway was real. The official continued explaining that the goal was to transport war resources through connection points, and that to do so, they were secretly repairing the subway lines. But before restoring the system, many preparatory stages would need assistance. Another official appeared to explain the whole situation. The operation was only for those with an excellent performance record. It was a preliminary mission before official recruitment, and the reward points for those who participated were quite high. Woo Jung-kook had never seen that man anywhere. The official said that anyone who wanted to join could proceed to the next room. Woo Jung-kook had never imagined that in all his life he would manage to see the subway with his own eyes. Maybe he would even get to ride it. But the official said he was the exception and asked him to come to his office. Woo Jung-kook went and asked why he was there, since he was about to enter the other room. The official said he had been asked to pass something along, a mission personally for Woo Jung-kook. The postman thought that this man knew his name and face, and had a bad feeling about it. The man handed him a document. It would be a delivery in the Jimseon district, a residential area under government control. Deliveries there were simple, but Woo Jung-kook grew suspicious. They had assigned such an easy job to him on purpose. Maybe Director BAE wanted to send him somewhere safe out of fear he would die. After all, Woo Jung-kook's achievements were the director's achievements too. Woo Jung-kook asked if he should start at that moment. The official said no, that work would go to someone else. Woo Jung-kook asked why he had shown it to him then. The official replied that he had only been asked to update Woo Jung-kook on the situation, and that staff delegation was his department. Woo Jung-kook asked if he was going to explain but not let him do anything. The official confirmed that was exactly it, and explained the reason. Woo Jung-kook's record was perfect, and precisely because it was too perfect it was suspicious. It was as though he had not existed before becoming a postman. For someone to hide an identity that well was not common. There had to be something behind it, and the official hated people who thought they were special just because they had connections. Woo Jung-kook asked if he was being insulted. The official said no, that he was just introducing himself. He said he hated people who cheated. Woo Jung-kook said he had been so curious about what kind of person the official was that he had even thought about opening up. But the official asked whether he had checked his performance record. Woo Jung-kook confirmed he had never fallen from first place. The official said that on the other hand, he had never done anything particularly difficult. Woo Jung-kook countered by saying he had always completed his missions without any difficulty at all. The official replied that for this operation, he had selected only the elite. Woo Jung-kook asked whether he did not trust him simply because he had never done anything too risky. The official confirmed it was more or less that. Then the official's walkie-talkie went off. He answered and said he would consider the conversation later. Woo Jung-kook thought this was his chance. He was going to show how a special express delivery was done. Later, Director Bae said it was impossible, or rather it was possible, but it would be brutal work, and asked if he was really going to steal that mission. Woo Jung-kook asked what he meant by stealing. He was just going to make sure the job was done with perfection. Director Bae said changing the paperwork was easy, but it was the first time Woo Jung-kook had ever asked for something like this. He asked when the postman had grown so close to that official, and why he wanted that mission so badly. Woo Jung-kook said he was working on it. The director told him just not to die out there. Woo Jung-kook thought he was going to show what he was truly capable of. He was so close to seeing that subway. As he walked, he thought about his survival odds, remembered Kyung-hoo, and thought that even if she had survived, she would have been gravely injured. Even using all the medicine, even after emergency treatment, the chances of keeping her alive would have been minimal. He remembered her thanking him once more, and woke up in his own bed. The next morning, he spotted the same bespectacled official, and said that the little letter in his hand must be the next delivery. The official replied that he was busy and told him not to get in his way. Woo Jung-kook said he was busy too, because he had to deliver the official's letter. The official said it was impossible, that he had checked the responsible postman's name several times. Woo Jung-kook said that unfortunately the person had not been able to make it, so he was filling the vacancy. All the paperwork was in order. Everything changed according to the rules and following the protocols the official so prized. And most importantly, if he finished the job one day ahead of schedule, he could prove himself for another mission. The official asked if he was doing this just for his ego. Woo Jung-kook said it was just work. Before setting off, the official told Woo Jung-kook that if he finished within the deadline he had promised and came back without a scratch, he would consider it. Woo Jung-kook examined the sender, Cho Yong-han, from the new government complex. It did not sound familiar, and more importantly, the envelope was covered in little bunnies. It did not quite match what he had imagined. As he tucked the letter into his bag, he saw that monster core he had collected. That core had been obtained through Gyunghui's sacrifice. He should pause for a moment before moving on. It was explained that, as though the skies carried a silent rage, black pillars had fallen upon the earth like needles. From those pillars, darkness emerged, and demons spread like wildfire, devouring humanity. Even so, in the midst of that despair, the skies granted one final gift, the core, a drop of hope, or perhaps the seed of another curse. Wu Jungkook was not sure. He had finally obtained one of the incredibly rare cores, but he could not assess its value on his own, so he took it to Heo Wung, a core appraiser. Wu Jungkook asked the old man to take a look, just to be safe, and said he would pay the fee. Wung asked how the postman had gotten hold of that. Wu Jungkook said he would pay the fee, so take a look. But Wung said right away that it was useless, that asking him to evaluate it was like asking someone to eat sushi and then examine their stool to see if it tasted different. He did not need to appraise it to know it was garbage. Wu Jungkook had been dealing with this man for years and was never recognized. It was because of the memory problems the old man had from age. So, with no other choice, Wu Jungkook used that story again. He told Wung it was about his daughter, that he had delivered a message to her, and she had asked him to pass along her thanks. Wung said there was no reason to thank him for something so trivial, and that, alright, he would carry out the inspection that day. Wu Jungkook said he still felt it was too much to receive the appraisal for free, and placed some ammunition on the table. He had used that story only to convince the old man to work, not to get out of paying. The truth was that he had never met Heo Wung's daughter. The old man did not even have a daughter. The dementia had gotten much worse, and he had begun speaking of a daughter who had never existed. By simply mentioning her, Wu Jungkook could get what he wanted. But he paid, so nobody was losing out. Wung went inside and came back saying it was the highest purity he had ever seen, and precisely because of that it was useless. It was better not even to try using it. The failure rate was 99%. Cores had to be used with extreme care. There were many types in that destroyed world. Energy cores that replaced electricity, communication cores that reconnected the world, but the most valuable were skill cores, which granted special abilities to the human user. Most of them had a failure rate above 95%, so it was better not even to try. Wu Jungkook thought that of all things he had to end up with that one. It was then that someone he truly would have preferred not to run into appeared. Dr. Myung, the government physician. She asked whether he was getting the appraiser to do things for him, using the old man's imaginary daughter again, saying it was cruel and asking him to stop. Wu Jungkook assured her that he always paid for the appraisal. She replied that it was a matter of basic humanity, that he seemed like a sociopath. Wu Jungkook said it was not the first time he had done that sort of thing. To secure the mission from Younghan, he had asked Director Ba to handle the paperwork, but the mission had already been assigned to another postman, so he lied by saying the postman was sick and took his place. Wu Jungkook had felt bad about asking directly and only sent a note. Dr. Myung asked if he really could not drop by the clinic every now and then. Wu Jungkook said that was exactly why he did not want to run into her. The doctor said she was doing it for him, so he owed her one. Wu Jungkook said yes, of course, and asked her to treat him with more respect. He did not know how things were back when he was still a hunter, but now he was just a postman. As Wu Jungkook left, it was explained that in that world there were those who had survived by using cores, despite the low chance of success. They had managed to survive and obtained unique abilities. These users were called hunters, and they carried out various secret missions. Wu Jungkook was one of them. Later, he received the mission briefing. The Republic of Korea desired the safe return of postman Wu Jungkook within 48 hours. If he did not return within that deadline, he would be declared dead, and all his personal belongings would be transferred by the state. Wu Jungkook thought that Dr. Myung had held him up for quite a while, and that he needed to hurry. The destination was AAA, in Namdong-gu, Incheon. That area was caught in a violent power struggle. Since the leaders of each territory changed frequently, headquarters had difficulty monitoring the situation closely. Among them, AAA was a colony famous for refusing all outside contact. The delivery condition was directly to the recipient. Even so, Wu Jungkook was going to finish it in express mode. That way, those bastards would have no choice but to recognize his ability. He stopped at a certain location with a good view of the territory, thinking it had been a while since he had been around those parts. He remembered a safe zone nearby, but now there was a black pillar planted right in the middle of it. A shame, because it was one of the few places that could still maintain contact. For the time being, finding help in the surrounding area was out of the question. He could choose a different route, but then he heard someone's voice saying it was too expensive. The other person asked what the plan was, that if they had resources to spare they could just take them and go, that he would go alone. Wu Jungkook realized they were two postmen arguing with each other. He recognized both of them by face from the department, and it was perfect, because he actually needed help. The older one said he was not going to trust people like that, and that he was leaving. They could do as they pleased. The other postman asked him to at least hear what those guys had to say. Those guys were hooded with large backpacks and looked like merchants. When Wu Jungkook approached, one of the merchants asked where he was heading. Wu Jungkook noticed they were trying to negotiate with a local group. The merchant said that for a small fee they could guide him, or they could make a trade, and not to worry, they were lovers of peace. Wu Jungkook remembered one more of the unspoken rules for survival. survival. Anyone who preaches peace is lying. So he too turned his back on the merchants. The old man said he had some nerve, hey kid, and that he could follow him if he wanted. Woo Jung-kook asked where the old man was delivering to be asking him that question. He said he was going to the same place. Woo Jung-kook asked if he knew where he was heading. The old man said yes, to Bucheon. Woo Jung-kook said he was going to Incheon. The old man said he was going there too, that they should go together. But the old man was only trying to push Woo Jung-kook away from that strange situation. Woo Jung-kook noticed the other postman had gone with that hooded group and asked what those people were trying to do. The old man replied that he had come from a nearby colony and that they had apparently blocked off the territory. Woo Jung-kook asked what had led him to that conclusion. The old man said it was just intuition. Woo Jung-kook thought the man was experienced but eccentric. He said it was fine that they had had the same idea, but that they could go their separate ways. The old man said he was going to Incheon with him regardless. Woo Jung-kook said he had never asked for that. The old man said great, then they would go together. Woo Jung-kook noticed the old man had an intimidating aura, but he introduced himself as Woo Jung-kook. The old man said he was also Woo, that they shared the same family name, that all the Woos came from the Danyang clan, that they were practically brothers, and he said he had known from the moment he saw him. Woo Jung-kook thought that the reason he was letting Mr. Intuition follow him was calculated carelessness. The little old man asked if he was heading to the AAA, given that the place refused all messages. Woo replied that it was his job, so he was going to try. He noticed the old man matched his pace exactly. He had turned down the hooded group's offer, saying he would go alone to the dangerous area. It was likely that, just as Woo Jung-kook had suspected, the old man had sensed that group's intentions and naturally moved toward him without making a sound. He was no amateur. Woo Jung-kook was sure of that. The little old man said the sun was going to set. Woo Jung-kook said they could rest for about 2 hours in that building. Later, resting together in that dark place, Woo Jung-kook noticed the old man had fallen asleep very quickly. Or perhaps he was pretending. He had even fallen asleep with his hand on his own bag, probably with some self-defense weapon inside. Woo Jung-kook thought about sleeping for half an hour and then keeping watch. But shortly after closing his eyes, he heard a noise, drew his weapon, and found himself face to face with the other postman, who was also aiming at him. The two realized they were not aiming at each other but were listening to a third person approaching. The old man asked if it was Kim. Kim approached, saying he had gone with the hooded group, but they had pretended to help him, peppered him with questions, taken him to a deserted place, and stolen everything. Woo Jung-kook told him to stop right there, not to move, and fired a warning shot near his foot. When Kim unzipped his jacket, he revealed a bomb inside his clothing. The old man asked what had happened. Kim said there was a child in the group and that they had not seemed like bad people. Woo Jung-kook thought that was the oldest looter's trick in the book. They had said there was a colony too, but if they really had a place and were normal, they would never bring a 5-year-old child on a dangerous mission. The child was in the group only to make the others lower their guard. He said that if they kept going the way they were, everyone there was going to die. The old man said they were probably also watching the building. Woo Jung-kook knew that whoever had rigged the bomb was hidden nearby, ready to detonate it. They had used Kim as bait to kill anyone who tried to help him, and then they would clean up what remained. Woo Jung-kook apologized to Kim but said he was already done for, and told everyone to gather their things. Kim begged not to be left alone there. Woo Jung-kook told him to lie on the ground, and asked exactly where the explosive was. Kim said it was only on the front. With Kim lying down, Woo Jung-kook asked that if he knew any information about them, he should speak up now. Kim said the guys had dozens of henchmen. 2 of them appeared to be leaders, and they were planning to attack another colony, hiring mercenaries for it. But he did not know exactly where it was. Woo Jung-kook thought that if they were hiring mercenaries, they were not mere road bandits. It was a large group, and the man he had spoken to must be one of the leaders. The old man said that when he got back to headquarters, he would report everything. Kim asked if there was no way out of this at all. Woo said that knowing there is an end, and being able to prepare your spirit calmly was great luck. They could be killed at any moment by a monster, a sniper, or a surprise bombardment. Even in that world, many people vanished in the blink of an eye, so they calmly left the building, and Kim detonated along with the place. The next morning, as they had a small meal, the old man asked Woo Jung-kook why he had wanted to know about the looters. Woo Jung-kook replied that they had attacked a postman, so obviously he had to report it, and for that he needed information. The old man asked if it was just a report. Woo Jung-kook asked if he thought he was going after revenge. The old man said that Kim had a core, and that in the end he had not used it until the last second. Woo Jung-kook said that if it was rare, those guys had hit the jackpot. The old man said no, that it was a core with a 98% chance of failure, probably a skill core. If it were him, he would keep his as a guarantee and try to use it when he saw he was truly going to die. Woo Jung-kook said that even so, it was not so easy when the moment actually comes, even when death is a certainty. The old man said that, thinking about it, Woo Jung-kook was really something else. He had a very rare pistol, the one with a laser on the second barrel. Woo Jung-kook asked him to keep that a secret. The little old man asked who would believe a postman with a hunter's pistol. Woo Jung-kook said he had found it somewhere around there. The little old man told him not to lie, brother Woo. Woo Jung-kook thought that he had in fact taken it on his way out, right after returning the equipment equipment when he stopped being a hunter. Teaching others or living in a group had never been his style. Working alone as a postman was perfect. Although this particular delivery was turning out to be a little different. It was getting dark again and they would hide in a building to rest. The old man warned that the building ahead was dangerous. There were signs of monsters, but Woo Jung-kook was analyzing something. His eyes changed color, and his ability told him there was only a 4% chance. He told the old man no, that the probability was extremely low, that he was just following his intuition, just like the old man himself. After a while, he woke up not knowing how long he had slept. It had already turned morning, and Woo Jung-kook was alone. The old man had left, and that had been a serious mistake. It did not matter where the old fellow had gone. The problem was that Woo Jung-kook had not even noticed him leave, which meant he had let his guard down, that he had gone soft again. That kind of mistake was becoming routine. He stopped holding himself accountable because holding himself accountable drained him psychologically, and from a distance he could already see the AAA, anti-aircraft artillery, in short, anti-aircraft cannons. It was a settlement founded by deserter soldiers who had seized those weapons from a past era. To them, those cannons were the shield and symbol of the settlement. Originally designed to shoot down aircraft, they were relics of a former time, but Woo Jung-kook knew the soldiers had modified them to target people, and over time even the government had given up on that place. It was called the Settlement Without Hope. The problem now was getting in. He remembered a conversation with Dr. Myung, when she had asked why someone as lazy as him would volunteer to go to a place that even the government would not face willingly. He had said it was when it was necessary that he made an effort, and that he had always been lucky. When Woo Jung-kook approached, the soldier said they did not accept mail and told him to get lost. Woo Jung-kook replied that the soldier clearly knew nothing about postmen. In addition to delivering letters, they also warned about aerial attacks. The soldier asked whether a black pillar was coming there. Woo Jung-kook said no, that he had come for the letter itself. The soldier pointed to a cannon at the back and said that with one signal he would be torn in two, giving him one last warning to clear out. But Woo Jung-kook knew that in a world where every bullet was precious, they would not waste an anti-aircraft shell on a simple postman. It was a real threat, but also a bluff. He was not certain, but he had always been lucky. So he walked toward the soldier and explained that if he could deliver a letter to a place like the AAA, which accepted nothing, his performance record would skyrocket. Instead of making 10 deliveries in safe places, one delivery at a dangerous point would level him up fast. Dr. Myung had said he had always been lucky, but he knew the truth. Being born in the apocalypse already proved he had no luck at all. The soldier asked what kind of lunatic this was. Woo Jung-kook said that even with that terrible bluff, he intended to deliver that letter. Even so, the reason he had survived crossing the line between life and death so many times was not luck. He could see probability. He grabbed the barrel of the soldier's weapon and pressed it against his own forehead, saying that either the soldier fired the cannon or he accepted the letter, because he had already bet that the cannon was out of ammunition. The soldier kept wondering how this bastard knew they had run out of ammunition after coming back from the hunt. On top of that, his gun was being pulled away easily. He asked himself why that boy was so strong and why he was smiling. No trained soldier normally smiles with a gun barrel pressed to his own forehead. Woo Jung-kook pushed the weapon back, knocking the soldier down. The soldier thought that Postman was obsessed with goals. He was crazy. Another person approached, and Woo Jung-kook said he had only come to deliver the mail and asked if they could make a deal. The person said they did not make deals with outsiders, but asked if he was First Sergeant Woo Jung-kook. Woo Jung-kook recalled that conversation with Yong-han, who had said his record was too clean. Before becoming a postman, Woo Jung-kook had lived secretly as a hunter, serving as an instructor who trained other hunters. The subject he was responsible for was survival, and his role was to teach others not to die in that world. But something happened. Creatures invaded the location, and as he had already expected, group living was not for him. He stopped being a hunter on his own and was demoted to soldier. From colonel, he fell to first sergeant and was assigned to a frontline unit, essentially a suicide mission unit. They had sent him off to die. As the exhausting days passed, there was a peculiar fellow under his command, someone with a smile on his face, who used military jargon as if living at the end of the old era, with an extremely formal military style of speech. That man was standing before him now, saying it had been a long time since he had let any outsider in. Woo Jung-kook recognized the face. The man said no one there would welcome him except himself, and he had barely known how many years had passed. First Sergeant Woo Jung-kook said that it seemed he had also risen to the rank of First Sergeant. The man said he had grown quite a bit, and asked what he should call him now. Woo Jung-kook said he was just a postman now. The man said he would need to introduce him to the captain before delivering the mail. Woo Jung-kook asked if that was protocol. Of course it was, and he hated it with every fiber of his being. The sergeant was sent away when they arrived, and the captain was left alone with the postman. The captain asked if he was the one who had caused all the commotion. Woo Jung-kook said he would not call it commotion. The captain knew he had been an old acquaintance of Sergeant Jun and asked if he had been a soldier. Woo Jung-kook said yes. Analyzing the environment, Woo Jung-kook realized that from the outside, it looked like a respectable outpost, but there was trash everywhere, everything dirty, smelling of rot. They were not receiving even the basics. They were on the edge. The captain said they should know how things worked, and asked Woo Jung-kook to introduce himself properly properly, like a soldier. Woo Jung-kook said he was a postman now, that he did not know those introduction things anymore, and did not need to. He did things his own way. He said that at their establishment they served with care, that it was a fast and precise delivery, that he was a postman of the Republic of Korea. Delivery within 1 week. The captain asked what the hell that disgusting thing was. Woo Jung-kook said that was the protocol, that every professional life was pretty disgusting. The postman was there to deliver a letter, his job, and he had received the condition of delivering it by hand. The captain said Woo Jung-kook should know that the AAA was at war with the government that monopolized everything, which was why they neither received nor sent official mail. Normally there would be no reason to let an outsider in, but according to Sergeant Young, Woo Jung-kook was a different kind of person. If he met the condition, the captain saw no reason not to allow one single letter. Woo Jung-kook asked what the condition was. The captain said it was more of a trade. He would provide all possible support inside, but in exchange Woo Jung-kook would help him get out of that place. Later, Woo Jung-kook was inspecting the anti-aircraft cannons on the roof. Sergeant Young asked what he was doing. Woo Jung-kook said he was checking the equipment. 30 minutes earlier, in the conversation with the captain, Woo Jung-kook had said that risking everything for a single letter did not make much sense. The captain said he could make a payment, handing over a bag with 25 cores collected up to that point. Woo Jung-kook said to inform the soldiers that the captain had put him in charge of inspecting the anti-aircraft cannons in exchange for being allowed to deliver the letter. The captain asked if it was an escape plan. Woo Jung-kook confirmed that in the worst case, he might have to deal with the cannons. Sergeant Young asked if the captain had really asked him to inspect. Woo Jung-kook said yes, that there was no choice if he wanted to deliver the letter, and he was thinking that the escape plan remained the same. If he had refused the captain's request, they might have kicked him out before he could even deliver the letter. It seemed he had gotten himself involved in something quite troublesome. Woo Jung-kook went to have a look around, just as a precaution. Young said the sergeant was good at seeing through these things. Woo Jung-kook said he was a postman now, but he could at least see what the problem was there with his ability. He could see how any device worked, whether it would run normally or break down, and the probability appeared as numbers before his eyes. But he could not see everything. To see with precision, he needed physical contact, what he called communion. Once he entered communion with an object, even if he were far away, he could see it more clearly and precisely. That was why he was analyzing all the cannons. Woo Jung-kook said everything was in order. Jung remarked that he seemed disappointed, but that it was amazing to have finished so quickly. Woo Jung-kook said he had just taken a surface-level look. Jung understood that his ability could only see, not change anything. He asked if he could guide him to actually deliver the letter. Woo Jung-kook knew that later he would have to disable some cannons along the escape route. Jung said they could deliver the letter as per the colonel's orders. Woo Jung-kook asked who this Jo Shin-hai was. Jung said she was the local physician, originally a veterinary officer, who due to the shortage of personnel, also served as a doctor. She had given up her military status after the barracks was established, and lived quietly as a civilian with her younger sister. Jung said she probably would not be as rigid as the soldiers. Jung replied that it would not be so easy. The older sister was somewhat suspicious of people. Woo Jung-kook kept wondering what kind of relationship Yonhan had with those people to have sent that letter. They approached the house where the two sisters lived. Jung said they would need to be careful if they wanted to deliver the letter without trouble. The younger sister was kind and sweet. The older one was pretty too, but difficult to deal with. But while he was saying all of this, Jung went ahead and kicked the door several times until the woman was furious. The blonde woman asked who he was. Woo Jung-kook said it was obvious from looking at him that he was a postman, asked whether her eyes were just for decoration, and told her to call her sister, that the mail had arrived. The recipient had to confirm. She went silent and after a while told them to come in. Even Jung was shocked by that. Later, the letter was on the table. The woman apologized for not having introduced herself earlier. She was Jo Shin-hee. She said her sister had gone out without telling anyone, and she asked if he needed a proof of receipt. As he was a diligent postman, this time she would accept it. Woo Jung-kook thought the path there had been complicated, but delivering the letter had been easier than expected. He received the proof. It was an old envelope from another letter previously sent to her. But there was something strange. It meant Shin-hee had already received letters from Yong-han before. From what he had heard from the soldiers, he had never heard of a successful mail delivery at the AAA. Headquarters would not ignore it if someone had managed to make a delivery. So Woo Jung-kook asked directly whether she happened to be using an illegal delivery service. Illegal delivery, unlike the government's, seeks personal gain by performing public functions without following proper reporting procedures. She said she had not expected that, and had naturally assumed he was one of them too. Woo Jung-kook said he would not refuse a side gain, but that he was an ordinary postman and followed protocols. She said that just arriving in one piece was enough to show he was not an ordinary postman. Woo Jung-kook asked how she was exchanging messages with headquarters behind the AAA's back. She said it was not an exchange. Her younger brother only sent things in one direction. Woo Jung-kook wondered whether Yong-han was her younger brother. She said he only needed to confirm she was alive, nothing more. When Woo Jung-kook went out, she asked whether the masked postman, that man who always covered his face, had ever appeared before him. Woo Jung-kook said yes. He had heard rumors about the masked postman. They said he was incredible, but Woo Woo Jung-kook had always been suspicious because his score was very low. Maybe it was him sending letters illegally. According to other rumors, there was someone influential behind him. He was a very suspicious character. Shin-hye said she did not understand why he wore such a stuffy, frightening mask. Woo Jung-kook replied that maybe he did not have confidence in his own face. She asked if Woo Jung-kook then did not wear a mask because he was confident in himself, that he was actually quite handsome. Woo Jung-kook received his proof and left. Shin-hye asked that if he ran into her sister along the way, he let her know to come home soon. Woo Jung-kook said he did not even know what she looked like. Shin-hye assured him he would know as soon as he laid eyes on her. Woo Jung-kook thought he had now finally understood the last words of that man, but the journey was not yet over. He needed to talk to the captain. One of the soldiers remarked that it was the first time he had seen that woman let anyone into her house. Woo Jung-kook told him to stop talking nonsense and asked what he thought of the captain, whether he found him trustworthy. Later, Woo Jung-kook returned to the captain's room. The captain said he had already made the preparations and asked if there was a problem with his luggage. It was just what was necessary for after the escape. Woo Jung-kook asked a simple question and the captain's reaction shifted slightly. There was something strange there. Woo Jung-kook asked what was inside the luggage. The captain said it was clothes, trade items, food, water, medicine, the basics for survival. Woo Jung-kook said those were indeed necessary items, so they could leave it there. He would only be living out there if the escape was a success. It was basic survival tactics. Discard anything that becomes an immediate burden. The captain disagreed, saying that acting without thinking about what comes after was reckless. Woo Jung-kook said that might be true, if what was inside really was for the basics. When he pressed on the luggage, he heard someone screaming. Woo Jung-kook said how curious. He had not known that food, water, and medicine made sounds. A blonde girl climbed out of the bag saying hi to him. Woo Jung-kook asked if she was Shin-hae's younger sister and said he had just come from talking to her, that she was supposed to go home soon. He then asked the captain what the reason for this was. He assumed the escape was for 2 people. He would only work on it if the payment were higher. She introduced herself as Jo-an-na and said she was eager to work with him. Later, discussing the plan, the captain asked whether the 3 of them were enough. Woo Jung-kook said no, that they would have to completely change the operation because Jo-an-na had joined. He said they had 2 more people. The captain asked if one of them was Sergeant Young. Woo Jung-kook confirmed it. The captain asked if the other one was Jo Shin-hae's masked person. Woo Jung-kook was surprised. Was the masked person at the AAA at that moment? The captain said he seemed completely out of the loop, asking whether there was no interaction between postmen. Woo Jung-kook said each postman usually looked after his own life, as long as they did not interfere with each other's livelihood. The masked one must have known that Woo Jung-kook was at the AAA. If he thought the illegal delivery had been discovered by another postman, it would be an enormous headache. The best thing was to avoid him as much as possible in that plan. Woo Jung-kook asked how the captain knew he was there. The captain said he had been in the room a little while ago. Later, Woo Jung-kook had gathered information about the masked one through the captain, and the details were summarized. That was not a truly isolated settlement. The AAA's command interacted with the outside world behind its own soldiers' backs, all thanks to the masked postman. Through him, the command obtained information and basic items from the outside world. Meanwhile, the ordinary soldiers who knew nothing gradually fell into poverty as food and ammunition dwindled. The masked one monopolized the illegal delivery fees and cleaned out all the ammunition from the place. The captain recounted that the first time the masked one passed through, there had been something to send. Woo Jung-kook said it must have been a test. The captain agreed. The masked one acted like a doormat, like the command's dog. But Woo Jung-kook knew it was probably the opposite. The command was the masked one's little dog. The man worried him, but he would follow the plan without issues. Jo-an-na asked whether her sister would come along, since she had always been against escaping. Woo Jung-kook said he had not yet managed to convince Shin-hae and that he intended to take her by force if necessary. Jo-an-na asked why he was helping so much, since he could simply leave. The captain reminded him of the payment of 25 cores. Woo Jung-kook said there was that, but that he also had not yet finished the mission. A certain doctor kept saying he was a lost cause, but despite appearances, he tried to fulfill a client's request in the best way possible. What Jung-hyun had requested in that mission was not merely a letter. Woo Jung-kook did not know what was written in it, but the intention was one, for his family in the AAA to return to headquarters. Because the last thing Jung-hyun had said was that if Woo Jung-kook finished that delivery in 2 days, they would all come back safely. Woo Jung-kook said that in other words, what he was delivering was not a letter, but the 2 sisters. He was going to deliver them safely to headquarters. Jo-anna took his hand and asked him to convince her sister, saying she could be difficult, but she was the person who cared most about them. When she touched his hands, Woo Jung-kook noticed that one of her fingers had a callus. He said it was fine, that he would go try to convince Shin-hye or drag her. The captain laughed and said he had thought Sergeant Jong was exaggerating when he introduced the postman, but maybe it was true after all. They said he had defeated an entire platoon of the Horde unit single-handedly, and that he had belonged to a unit you should never enter. It seemed Woo Jung-kook had arrived with the intention of helping everyone escape. The postman knocked on Shin-hae's door and announced that the escape would be the following night. They did not need to bring anything special, just small and light items. Shin-hae Sunhae replied that she had never said she was going to escape. She asked him to send Jo and Na back if he found her. She was not going under any circumstances. Woo Jung-kook asked whether she planned to stay in the AAA until the place collapsed, especially with her little sister. She replied that she knew that place had no more hope, but that even if they fled, the outside world was just as bad. But Woo Jung-kook said that at least she could be with her family, and he promised he would help them get out of there. The next day, Woo Jung-kook reviewed everything possible for the escape. Not even the command had noticed the plan. He had taken all the necessary precautions, so the cannons certainly should not work. But when they set out, on that rainy night, the cannons fired on them. Woo Jung-kook told everyone to scatter. One person lost an arm. The one who had reloaded the cannons and ordered them to fire was the masked one. The captain, who had been in contact with Woo Jung-kook until shortly before, had gone to the rebellious commander of the AAA to report something about the postman who was causing trouble. Upon arriving, the captain noticed there was plenty of water, plenty of food in the commander's room, and so he said yes, he had something to say about that postman. The day before, Woo Jung-kook had explained the plan. They would walk out in plain sight, using the trade as a pretext. Maybe they had forgotten, because they had only ever seen the masked one making illegal deliveries, but a real postman had arrived. Jo Anna asked what she was not understanding. The captain explained that among soldiers, a postman was sometimes called a golden carriage. When a postman passed through a settlement, it was customary to trade goods with the residents, since they traveled between headquarters and various other bases, carrying very useful items. Woo Jung-kook said they would use that to their advantage. Only a few in the upper echelons benefited from the masked one's illegal deliveries. Considering the soldiers without supplies, the command had nothing to lose. What mattered was telling the command that, according to the captain, Woo Jung-kook had hidden supplies near the base before entering. The commander asked if it was reliable information. The captain said it seemed to have merit, and that Woo Jung-kook would lead a search party. The captain would give the order. Later, Woo Jung-kook met up with Sergeant Jung, who said he had prepared all the necessary weapons. The captain praised the work and thanked Jung for joining the escape plan. Jung said he remembered the day the monsters invaded the base, when they were still following headquarters orders. That day they had fought the monsters together, risking their own lives, believing they were protecting the people, but they were not actually protecting the people. They were protecting goods being embezzled by the command. They had fought with their lives just to buy time to move those goods. The captain said it made sense. That was why the lower-ranking officers and soldiers had fled and founded the AAA. But Jung said what he remembered most was the captain running with him on his back when he was on the verge of death. He had saved Jung's life that day, and for that reason he would follow him. The captain said that if they got out that night, the title of captain would no longer be necessary. He could be called whatever Jung wished. But at that moment, Jung spotted something in the corridor, something hooded, a masked figure, but he said it must have been something strange he had seen. As evening fell, the captain noticed it was going to rain. Jung said it might be their luck. The captain had finished the report on Sergeant Jung and the search party. Only the anti-aircraft cannon remained. Jung asked if he was certain no one would come up while they were working. The captain said that managing the battery was the authority of his unit, so no soldier would show up in time. Jung could break everything without worry. All preparations were complete. He had cut the firing circuits of the anti-aircraft cannons at the escape point, and Sergeant Jung should be taking care of the sentries' rifles. As soon as they passed through the main gate, all they had to do was run. Woo Jung-kook knew that none of the weapons would work that night. Most important was his communion. With it, he could see the probability at any moment, from a distance, until the end of the night. For now, it was at 0%. He could not allow any variable to arise. He went to get the sisters and set a meeting point with the captain. The captain noticed a box full of food and water, remarking that it was ironic to have finally gotten the supplies he had wanted so much just before the escape. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to some soldiers wondering who was next on duty, but before that, they notice a strange guy nearby and question who he is. Since it's a restricted area, another soldier asks if he forgot Captain Choi's order, saying that he had authorized the postman's nighttime entry and telling him to check his armband. Still, the other soldier doesn't trust him, asking what kind of postman dresses like that, not to mention his bizarre mask. The scene changes again, and the guy hands over the payment of 25 cores. He says he finds it funny how the subject didn't even come up. He hadn't even charged them. In response, he says he planned to collect it after they managed to escape, but the captain argues that it would actually become too much of a burden. Jung-kook thinks that if he already knew that, why even ask, but thanks him anyway for the advance payment. The guy then asks if he would get a refund in case the escape went wrong, and Jung-kook replies that half would be refunded, and if he failed but stayed alive, he would return the other half. Jung-kook then asks what kind of core that was in his backpack, but the man decides not to answer, saying it would be a long story. Soon after, the girl appears, asking why she had to wear that, and her sister replies that they had no choice. She wasn't military, and would attract too much attention. She then asks if she wouldn't be wearing a mask as well. Young explains that reports said the postman had medical supplies hidden among the cargo, so Jo Shin-hee would have to accompany them to inspect everything on site before entering the base. As for Enna, the report listed the postman, Captain Choi, Miss Jo Shin-hee, and one additional companion. Jungkook comments that if such a poorly made report was allowed through, it meant the command wasn't on high alert. It was almost time, and their objective was simple. Everyone had to get out alive. Before escaping, they would leave behind anything that could slow them down, unless it was something valuable and light. He saw no point in carrying unnecessary weight. Choi says they could take anything useful during the escape, mentioning they had stored items like smoke grenades, disposable equipment, and a small stock of rations. If anything only served to weigh them down, it would be better to eat it all beforehand. Shortly after, the scene returns to the rain as they prepare to leave. One of the soldiers stops them, but Young says he received the report and asks if communications hadn't informed him, explaining they were heading out to retrieve supplies the postman had hidden. Shinhai asks if the postman was okay, and Jungkook replies that he would be fine until they reached the forest and were out of sight. Jungkook thinks that if there were any issues they would already know, and he was aware of anything that could pose a threat. It was all under control. Once they got out, they would run straight to the settlement. When they finally leave, the girl asks if they made it, but Jungkook says not yet. They couldn't lower their guard. Soon, however, he notices something and asks Captain Choi if it was normal to leave the main gate open right after sending out a search team. Choi says no, unless someone was going out, meaning something was wrong. Jungkook thinks they would send a pursuit team and tells everyone not to look back and to focus only on his voice. Still, he feels relieved that they realized it a bit later than they should have. He tells the others their plan had been discovered, but it was fine since their weapons wouldn't work. He tells them to stay calm and throw the smoke grenade on the ground when he gives the order, then run to the trees 3 seconds later. But suddenly, the cannon begins to move, and he wonders if the probabilities were really changing. The cannon indicated a 100% probability. He questions how that was possible, but he can't think about it now, and orders everyone to run immediately. It's already too late. Choi is hit directly by a shot. Looking up, he sees it was the masked postman. He doesn't understand why his legs won't move or why they're trembling. He realizes the cannon barrel is aimed straight at him, and he won't be able to dodge it. His chance of dying is 99.9%. He remembers the old man's words, saying that Kim had a core he never used and would only use if he were on the brink of death. Instinctively, his fingers are already gripping the core. It was only the second one he had ever held in his life. A man on the radio ordered everyone at checkpoint 46 to treat all members of the search team who had just left as hostile. One of the soldiers asked what that meant, and he replied that from that moment on, full command and operational authority over the anti-aircraft battery would be transferred to the masked man. The masked man found the way the postman moved suspicious, and said he would take care of all of them. Then, as the shots were fired, he saw something shining that caught him off guard. It was Jungkook, with the core glowing intensely. The scene then shifts back to a subway, and Jungkook wonders if he had died. He had bet his life on a 99.9% chance. Someone beside him says that it was inevitable for things to end this way. It was Heeju. She says something was different this time. Unlike when he was a child, this time he used the core himself. He replies that back then it was the same. He could have run away, but he used the core because he knew that escaping from that old man wouldn't keep him alive. She says that thanks to the power of that core, he managed to survive until now, but he didn't think the power was very useful, since it was just a fancy way of running away. All he ever saw were numbers, and he couldn't change the odds of saving Kyung-hee, which were 0.9%. She asks if he really understood what those numbers meant, since there was always a way to build another roof, but all he could do was observe. For some people, even 1% was worth trying, while others would call it recklessness. He says he always followed the path where the odds were slightly better. That's why he always survived, but never managed to save anyone else. That's why being alone was always easy for him. But this time, he couldn't even save himself. Then the subway stops, and he asks if this is his stop. Suddenly, the girl appears and kicks him, saying this isn't his station, that this is just a product of his imagination. She tells him to keep going, to change things with his own hands instead of treating probabilities as mere numbers. He wakes up, wondering if he managed to use the core. He's alive and unharmed, aside from his whole body burning and the taste of blood in his mouth, which might be a side effect of a failure he hasn't noticed yet. But something has changed. The probabilities in front of him are fluctuating wildly. The chance of the anti-aircraft battery firing is still 99.9%, but then something changes, and the probability drops to 0.1%. The masked man wonders what happened, and a soldier says it suddenly stopped and isn't responding. The masked man says he'll check the barrel himself. Jungkook wonders if the odds really changed, but to be precise, they reversed. He doesn't understand how, but it feels like the core has amplified his ability. He pulls out his pistol, thinking that his chance of hitting and disabling the anti-aircraft battery with the first shot is only 0.7%. Even so, his legs are still paralyzed, and the weapon is still aimed at him. He desperately wants to change that number in front of him. Then a strong light emanates from him. His bag is heating up. He remembers the girl from the subway saying that now probability wouldn't be something he merely observed. His chances of hitting the target rise to 99.3%. The soldier had already fixed the cannon and was waiting for orders, but the masked man had disappeared. Jungkook thinks he's tired of just observing. From now on, he'll change the outcome himself. He fires and hits straight inside the cannon's barrel, causing it to explode.